Today is Monday, October 6, 2014, the 279th day of the year. There are 86 days remaining until the end of 2014. On this day in 1539, Spanish conquistador Hernando de Soto and his army enter the Apalachee capital of Anhaica, near present-day Tallahassee, Florida, by force. When the Spanish get serious about colonizing Florida, and this is early, like the 1530s, just decades after Columbus, they send in and give the privilege to a conqueror you should know, Hernando de Soto, the first European to explore the territory that becomes Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, the first white man to cross the Mississippi River. It's De Soto, conquering in support of Francisco Pizarro in Peru in 1533, who leads a small force of 15 soldiers to capture Atahualpa, all-powerful, divine-righted head cheese boss leader and godhead of all the Inca. The Spanish hold Atahualpa for ransom, forcing his people to fill up a room with gold and silver, thinking, oh, that'll satisfy those conquistadors. De Soto teaches Atahualpa to play chess, sure he does, and he converts him to Spanish Catholicism, presumably to give him an advantage when he gets to heaven, the chess mainly, if the Inca even go to heaven, which Atahualpa agrees to because he thinks the Spanish are running a short con. A few more rooms full of treasure, and they'll be on their way back to wherever it is again they say they're from. Point is, Atahualpa ends up dead anyway, and the Spanish end up taking all of Peru. The room full of gold only proves there's a whole lot more where that came from. De Soto knows about Anhaica in Florida. He hears about it from local tribes near present-day Tallahassee, major center of the Apalachee, tribal people who live in the Florida panhandle and have thrived down over there since at least 1350 of the Christian era, when they built Velda Mound and established their first village, doubtless before then too. Mound culture, village system, practiced in the New World by the Mississippian people north of there and west, and in northern Florida by the Apalachee, with the town leader, the richest guy in town, getting a platform on the mound to build his house on, above everybody else, and he's surrounded by the houses of the villagers, protection, who each have their own tidy little vegetable garden. Surrounding the village are the fields where villagers farm together, producing corn, beans, squash. Everybody loves the squash. They work hard, live well, raise happy families. The suburban ideal. Nobody misses having cars because life is so good right where they are. Why would anybody want to go anywhere else? Besides, there aren't even any decent paved roads out of town anyway. When those Europeans show up and start poking around, reality intrudes in significant ways. Starting around 1528, after being exposed to European diseases, notably smallpox, syphilis, during contact with members of the doomed Narvaez expedition, guys hopelessly lost and wander seriously for 8 years before 4 survivors out of the 600 hardy Spaniards they started out with finally find their way back to Mexico City, the long way around. Apalachee population numbers seriously compromised and weakened. So when De Soto and his crew show up in May 1539 aboard 9 ships, landing at Tampa Bay, another more than 600 men and 220 horses, his first winter is spent camping out at Anhaica, at the eastern end of the panhandle. Among the somewhat demoralized Apalachee, they've got a good memory of what happened the last time, before heading on out into the terra incognita ahead, when winter's over. 100 short years later, here come the Padres who build their mission at the center of the community, keep the corn and bean fields, and the remaining weakened Apalachee finally ready to give up their savage Stone Age ways and accept the blessings of civilization, come to Jesus and the welcoming abrazo of the Padres inside the mission walls. You know, those Spaniards, they got as much claim to this new world as the English do, however much a little late to the party, which is nothing because of the ancient eternal divine right of first dibs that goes to the OGs, the first settlers, them Apalachee, who get hustled up into the mission so the new terrorists can scarf up the land. Years later, the Carolinians, when they settle down their own natives, have a different idea. Everybody's got a different idea. The English can figure out, anybody who's been to Florida can figure it out. The Spanish want more than that. By the late 17th century, 1670 or so, the Cholos are as far as North Carolina, in a fight with some Virginia tribe that wants nothing more than to count coups on conquistadors. It's why we still love hot sauce. It's like that De Soto says to the Apalachee, you guys got to go, but you can leave your food behind. The Carolinians push back even harder, and the Spanish eventually fall back to the Caribbean. On this day in 1976, Cuban Flight 455 crashes into the Atlantic Ocean shortly after taking off from Bridgetown, Barbados, when 2 bombs placed on board by terrorists with connections to the CIA explode, killing all 73 people on board. Flying from Barbados to Jamaica, it's a Cuban Airlines McDonnell Douglas DC-8, 80 seats for Pratt & Whitney Mutiny turbojet engines, 2 time bombs, dynamite or C4. 4 men were arrested. Freddy Lugo, Hernan Ricardo Lozano, who goes straight to jail, don't even get paid for the job. They're hired out of a Caracas-based private investigation outfit owned by this guy, Luis Posada Cariles. And the 4th guy, Orlando Bosch. We'd call him a contractor today, loves his work. These guys are, at the least, anti-Castro Cuban exiles. Posada Cariles gets out of Cuba because he realizes he isn't rising quick enough in the hierarchy of the revolution. He soon becomes known as the godfather of the Cuban exile resistance. He helps plan the Bay of Pigs invasion in mid-April 1961 and later becomes a covert CIA asset, during which time, 1967, by his own admission, he's responsible for a series of tourism-related bombings in Havana, hotels, nightclubs, bowling alleys. Posada Cariles denies having anything to do with the bombing of the Cuban airliner. Orlando Bosch and Posada are held without trial for 4 years before being acquitted. Bosch moves to Miami, continues his good work there. Posada is held, awaiting sentencing on lesser charges for 8 years until he escapes from custody. American author Thomas Pynchon writes, "All the animals, the plants, the minerals, even other kinds of men are being broken and reassembled every day to preserve an elite few who are the loudest to theorize on freedom, but the least free of all." From Rutland, Vermont, this is Richard Alcott speaking.